Welcome to Advocate Today. I'm Aaron Dean. New Mexico's governor is defending her temporary ban on public carry of firearms. The governor declared a public health emergency on gun violence, suspending open and concealed carry laws in Albuquerque and the surrounding county for 30 days. The move was prompted by the shooting deaths of 3 children from July through September and a pair of mass shootings in the state. Gun right advocates say that the order violates the Second Amendment, but the governor disagrees.
I'm focused on one thing. We have the 3rd highest gun-related injuries in the country, 90% higher than the national average. We lost 143 children between 2017 and 2021. It is unacceptable, and it calls for immediate and swift and bold action. And frankly, the evidence bears out over and over again. Fewer guns on the streets makes everyone safer, and I'm focused on everyone's constitutional rights, not just those the NRA says I should be focused on.
The NRA is seeking to end the emergency order. They filed a lawsuit preventing it from going into effect. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton's impeachment trial could be coming to an end very soon. The official overseeing the proceedings say that closing arguments are on the horizon. Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick says that both sides have used about 14 of the 24 hours allotted to them to present evidence. Paxton is facing 16 articles of impeachment. He's accused of a number of crimes that include bribery and misuse of his office to benefit a wealthy donor. Religion can be a complicated topic for those in the LGBTQ+ community. The church historically has committed plenty of injustices to queer people, but in Metro New York, Lutheran churchgoers are welcoming the community with open arms. I spoke with one leader in the Metro New York Lutheran community, and he tells me that it's the church's responsibility to welcome and inspire, not turn away and shame. Christopher, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, of course. Well, thanks for joining us. So can you tell us a little bit about how you arrived at the Lutheran Church in Metro New York?
Yeah, so I was elected in the past Synod Assembly as the vice president of the Metropolitan New York Synod, or sort of the Lutheran Churches of Metro New York. And the Lutheran Church has had a place in my heart for a long time. I found it as a wonderful spiritual home and a faith community to be a part of. And so I'm so excited to be in this sort of leadership position that I find myself now, as we sort of are finding ourselves, after the pandemic, and look into the future of who we want to be and what kind of work we want to do in our communities.
And how has your experience as an openly gay individual influenced your approach when it comes to leading the church and promoting inclusivity within the church as well?
Right. I think my personal journey sort of coming out was an interesting one. It wasn't a surprise for a lot of people, funnily enough, but for my mom, it was kind of a tough thing. And I remember her asking me in one of our conversations about it. She was like, I grew up in a very traditional, charismatic tradition, and there was like a lot of rules, like no drinking and things like that. And for her, was very that was something that was very to her piety, was like, oh, I don't drink. And she told me once, she's like, you know what? I feel like I just want to go to a bar and get drunk, knowing about this. And I told her, you know what, Mom? If you went to a bar and got drunk, God would still love you. And she was like taken, and she's like, I didn't teach you that. Who taught you that? And I was like, I learned that from the Lutheran Church. And I think that's one of the things that has drawn me and kept me in this tradition, is just knowing that God's grace and God's love is for everybody, even when us human beings act and behave not in that way.
And, and how do you envision the role of your church and others when it comes to advocating for LGBTQ+ rights and equality within society and beyond the church walls as well?
Right. I think it's important that we are participating in the conversation in the public square. I think it's important that we are a place of community, of gathering, of diverse people to come together, not only in the Lutheran tradition, but of all faith traditions. That's something that we can be helping people to do, to be places where people can come together, because we're losing that. I think we're losing those public spaces to come together, to discern, to talk, to be honest with each other, to ask tough questions. And I think that's the space that communities of faith can provide to the society at large, and to foster conversation, but that maintains the people's dignity, that is respectful of each other and of our God-given identities. So yeah, that's, I think, the role that we can play at this time.
And also even too, like, why is it important more than ever for organizations and corporations to uplift and support the LGBTQ plus community, especially organizations of faith, given our current political climate?
Right. I mean, I think we're under attack again, or we're constantly under attack, and we're finding ourselves to be under attack in a lot of legal. There's so much legislation right now that's coming to attack queer communities, queer people, queer families, and I think we have to stand with people for justice. I think it's part of our calling, specifically as Christian, but then as a broader people of faith, to stand for justice. I think most religions and communities of faith, that's like a central tenet of them. And I think we cannot not listen to that call. I think that's part of the work that we have to do as communities of faith, because it's just needed right now.
Yeah. And what do you have to say to a church or an organization that claims to be faith-based, but spouts out that anti-LGBTQ hate rhetoric? What do you have to say to them?
I think we have to go back and really do our homework, specifically for Christians, and look at those stories of Jesus. Where was Jesus? What the type of people that he was with and he engaged with, and meals he had with and participated. The broader community criticized him often, was like, why are you eating with those tax collectors? Why are you, drinking water with this woman at this, he always found himself at the margin of society. And unfortunately, a lot of marginalized communities are being marginalized by communities of faith, especially Christian tradition here in this country. And I think we need to ask ourselves that, it's like a lame question, like not like what would Jesus do, but really look at our sacred texts and say, look, what's the example we have in Jesus, and how do we live that example today? In the Lutheran churches in New York, our bishop has called us to think about what does it mean to live like Jesus in our communities. And I think if we really are honest with ourselves and we're honest with the basis of our tradition, it's not hate, it's not exclusion, it's not oppression. It's always inclusion, it's always lifting up, it's always validating and making people feel that they have dignity because they're a beloved child of God no matter what.
And when we talk about the intersections of sexuality and faith, that can be a tricky one to kind of navigate for a lot of people. How do you make sure that your LGBTQ plus worshipers feel welcomed and valued within the Lutheran community? What steps have you taken?
Yeah, I think it's important to, first of all, I think representation matters. And so having a queer person like myself in this elected position is important. I think it's acknowledging and not talking about, we want to do ministries to queer people. There are queer people who are actively participating in the life of the church right now, and to acknowledge that, and have been for centuries. So it's not like a new thing that is happening right now. And then I think it's checking in with those communities and those members, our members in the wider community, to be in dialogue. But like, how are you doing? What do you need? And then showing up for them. It's good to have faith, and it's good to have beliefs, and to say we have these tenets and this is how we behave, or like values that we have. But we really need to also put our faith in action, so that people can see that what we believe is how we act. And I think that engaging in that participation in our communities is really important. But it's a lot of conversation, it's a lot of talking, it's a lot of listening, but then there is the doing of it that's important too.
Thanks so much for watching Advocate today. Download the app in the Apple or Google Play Store to watch us live. And you can even subscribe on our YouTube channel. For the Advocate channel, I'm Aaron Dean.